If you're thinking about relocating to Salem, Oregon, listen up because we're going to be taking a look at South Salem and I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know before you move here. Now, I know exactly what it feels like to relocate to a new place. I relocated to Salem, Oregon 5 years ago with my husband, and when I became a real estate agent and started working with fellow relocators, I realized that the challenges and experiences that I faced when I relocated, they were not unique to me. I know that you are going through the same problems that I experienced, and I want to help you out. Hi, my name is Clarity Odd, and I'm a real estate agent here in Salem, helping fellow relocators figure out where to call home in Salem. If you're ready to buy a home here in Salem, we would love to help you. We're working with people on YouTube right now. So if you want to join that crowd and you want us to help you as well, go down to the description of this video where you'll find our email address where you can write us an email and we'll set up a time to chat with you. Let's pull up a map here and jump right in. Okay, we have jumped over to the map here and the first order of business is actually defining where the heck South Salem is. Now, obviously, you know, it's towards the southern part of Salem, but there is a little bit of a quirk in this, so let's dive into actually defining South Salem. So this little section right here, this is considered Southeast Salem. But the thing is, when people talk about South Salem, they're really referring to this section right over here. And nobody really talks about this little quadrant over here when they're talking about South Salem. So just know that when I reference South Salem, this is the area that I am talking about and most other Salem people will also talk about. We're going to draw this in again. And now let's get you a little bit oriented in regards to the landmarks around South Salem. So this is going to be downtown Salem right here. You've got your hub of activity. You have everything that's going on in downtown is in this circle. Now we have West Salem over here. And I have talked about West Salem and broke it down on a map in a previous video, so you can go down to the description and check out that video as well if you're interested in West Salem. But there's a little bridge over here that, let's change the color. There's a little bridge over here that crosses into West Salem. So that's just something to keep in mind as well as we talk about South Salem and how it relates to the rest of Salem. Let's break down the main streets in South Salem and the streets that you're going to be dependent on if you live in South Salem. So the first one that we're going to talk about, and this is probably the biggest one, is going to be Commercial Street. So that starts in downtown and connects all the way down with I-5, and it runs north to south in South Salem. So this is Commercial Street. This is probably the biggest artery. It's 4 lanes, 2 going in either direction, and you have that middle medium divider. When you get closer to downtown, it does kind of split off here. You can see that a little bit and splits off into Liberty. But for the most part, this is going to be like the main thing that you are using to travel north and south if you're in South Salem. The other main street, which actually breaks off from Commercial, is going to be Liberty Street. Now, Liberty Street is a little bit smaller than Commercial Street. For the most part, it's about 2 lanes, 1 in either direction, but it does kind of widen out in some spots where there are turns and stuff, but it is a little bit smaller than Commercial Street. And then Liberty drops down into Skyline right here, and it just kind of goes into the residential parts of Salem that have acreage and are a little bit more into the country. Okay, so we have talked about the main streets in South Salem going north to south, which I mentioned was Commercial, Liberty, but then you have I-5. So Interstate 5 is Oregon State's main highway that goes north to south, and that little guy is right here. Oh my gosh, those lines are terrible. Let me try that again. Okay, so there's I-5 right there. it goes north, it goes south, it goes every direction. But what I want you to pay attention to is the fact that it hugs Salem. I-5 does not cut through Salem, especially this southern part of Salem. And so if you are living over here, or you are living over here in the Illahee Country Club area, well, you're going to find that you have to traverse through the residential areas to get to I-5. Now, I know this doesn't really seem like a big deal, but the way that the roads are constructed during rush hour and commuting time, it does get pretty dang slow if you're over in this area and you want to get over to I-5. So keep that in mind, especially if you're dependent on I-5 for your work commuting or something like that. Before I move on to my next point, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up if you've learned anything new in this video. And if you want extra brownie points, please leave a comment about where you are watching this video from. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we've established where I-5 is. We talked about commercial. We talked about Liberty. We are going to now talk about River Road. So River Road branches off of commercial and is right here, as you guessed, right along the river, hence the name. So depending on where you're living in South Salem, River Road might be a really necessary road for you. It's 2 lanes. It's not super maintained. They are doing a little bit of road work, but it has some bumps. It's a unique road in the fact that it's old, but it's a very essential one if you live somewhere like Illahee. So this is the biggest downfall for people who live in Illahee, is just traversing River Road into town, because if it gets congested or there's an accident on River Road, there's not many good alternative routes for you to get back into town unless you do like this windy kind of thing going through the neighborhoods. So it can be really frustrating and definitely something you need and should consider if you're thinking about moving to Illahee or some of these areas that are located off of the map that have a little bit more acreage. To summarize, the main roads going north to south in South Salem that you need to pay attention to are River Road, Commercial, Liberty, which branches off into Skyline, and then I-5. So those are the main roads you need to pay attention to. Now let's talk about the main roads going east to west in South Salem. So the main roads that you need to be mindful of are going to be Madrona, which actually does kind of this funny little arc here at the top, and then Kubler. As you will see, there are only 2 main roads that go east to west in South Salem. You guys, that is not a lot. So if any of these roads get congested, you're going to find yourself driving through the neighborhoods, and there really isn't this secret kind of path that you can take to circumvent the traffic. It's just like a maze to go through these residential neighborhoods, and it does not save you time. So Kubler it's 2 lanes on either side with a middle divider, and that's how Commercial Street is as well. So Kubler is a main thoroughfare that connects to I-5 right here, and then for Madrona, that's actually only a 2-lane road, so 1 going in each direction, and you can get to I-5, but you do this little kind of wonkapoo thing where you go north and then you have to go around the airport, and then you can dip down to I-5 right here. So for that reason, most people who live in South Salem, they're going to be very dependent on Kubler. All right, so we've talked about the main roads that you need to be aware of if you're living in South Salem. Now let's talk about the grocery stores and the shopping and what that's really like in South Salem. So I'm just going to define for you again where South Salem is as a reminder of the section that we're talking about. So we're talking about everything in that space. So the main shopping that you're going to have access to in regards to grocery stores in South Salem is going to be Costco, which is right around here. You have another little area right here and a strip mall right here with a Fred Meyer's, a Trader Joe's. You have Winco, which is like a discount market or a discount grocery store. You also have a little strip mall right here with this place called Roth's, which is like our local kind of Kroger. You also have another Roth's right here. So around South Salem, you do have ample accessibility to grocery stores, Safeway, Fred Meyer's, I call it Freddy's, Roth's, Winco, Trader Joe's. So you're not going to ever lack for easy access to grocery stores. But it's important to know that when you live in this residential, this lighter gray area over here that I'm coloring in red, it's important to know that you are going to need to depend on your car to drive to the grocery stores. Salem in totality is really not a great space to walk and do these activities and chores like going to get your groceries. So just be mindful that really anywhere you end up in South Salem, you're going to need to have your car to go to the grocery stores. One last thing that I want to mention about the shopping and grocery stores in South Salem is that there are grocery stores everywhere. There are Quickie Marts everywhere. There are strip malls with Quickie Marts, with liquor stores, with convenience stores, which is a Quickie Mart, but there's accessibility to all kinds of grocery stores really close by, but there's not really like clothing shopping or boutiques. For that, you would have to go into downtown Salem, so keep that in mind. Let's talk about the high schools in South Salem. Now, I do want to mention that I do not have kids. I don't have a kid who's enrolled in any of these schools, so my perspective is more from the outside looking in. But I do want to mention where the top two ranked high schools in South Salem are located. So the first one's going to be South Salem High, which is right here, closest to downtown. And then you have Sprague, which is right over here. So those are the two biggest high schools in South Salem. Most of my clients end up falling into this district, but it's really important when you are house shopping and you're wanting to be in a specific school district that you call that school to verify directly that your house is going to be in that district, because district lines change every year, so it's important to verify. Let's move on to the airport, because this is a fun feature of South Salem. And just within the last week and a half, we've actually opened, well, I shouldn't say we, but the city of Salem has opened up the airport here to commercial airlines that fly to Las Vegas and California. That is huge. This airport was just a private airport up until a week and a half ago. So if you had your own private jet, you could fly into this airport. If you're a pilot and you just like to fly recreationally, you used to be able to fly out of this airport. Things have changed. It is now a commercial airport. One cool thing, because even though this airport is changing into a commercial airport, it doesn't actually have flights right now that go up to Portland International Airport, PDX, or SeaTac or the Seattle airport. So just know that if you are dependent on the airport, although we have a small one, it doesn't have flights up to Portland. The best way to get around that is to hop on the shuttle that we do have, which is called Groom, and that runs a shuttle, I think it's every 20 minutes up to the Portland airport. It's $45 one way. It is super convenient. That's what my husband and I do with our in-laws every time they visit. We just pop them on the Groom bus and hasta la vista, baby. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about new construction homes, because South Salem is where you're going to find the majority of new construction homes in Salem. And we do have other areas that have new construction developments, but South Salem is a pretty popular area because, as you can see, we have kind of this border right here. And so there's a lot of land to be developed for new construction. So you're going to find new construction over here. There's this little cute area that's being developed over here. And there's some off of the map down there. But there's a lot of new construction going on in South Salem. So if that is something of interest to you, you're going to want to look in South Salem. Okay, let's jump to the entertainment in South Salem. Like I mentioned earlier, downtown Salem, which is right here, it's really a destination because there's no residential living. Well, there's limited residential living in downtown Salem. If you live in South Salem, you're going to be just driving into downtown to get your entertainment. Yes, there are strip malls. Yes, there are CrossFit gyms. There are different activities that you can do in South Salem. But like I mentioned earlier, there's not really entertainment per se in South Salem. In the strip malls, you will find stuff, but most of my clients who end up in South Salem, they say that it is, and I can attest to this, it's more about residential living. So keep that in mind if you are somebody who wants to be able to walk out your front door and walk to downtown. You're probably going to want to look in neighborhoods that are closer to downtown Salem, like right over here. And I actually made another video about Fairmount, which is right over here. Let's get another color for that. This is the Fairmount neighborhood right here. And that is like just the most amazing neighborhood. I'll also link that video in the description of this video so you can check out that neighborhood. But that's a good one. And right here, South Salem neighborhood. These are two really good ones if you want to be able to walk to downtown to get easy entertainment. Now, you are going to find a lot of brew pubs. You are going to find kind of these, pubs that you can go hang out in. But South Salem is residential. It's going to be car dependent. You're going to have your Costco, your Trader Joe's. You're going to have access to everything, but you just need to be really cognizant that this is not necessarily a neighborhood where you just, or a part of Salem where you just open up your front door and walk out. If you are looking for some acreage property, South Salem, I'm going to say south of Kubler, is going to be a really good spot to look. There are a lot of big houses out there. There's a lot of acreage that you can purchase and either develop the land or purchase it with a big house already on it. But there's every type of living that you could want in South Salem. And that is why the majority of people who move to Salem, they look in South Salem first because they hear a lot of great things about it, which are true. And they also recognize that any type of house you want, whether it be a condo, a townhome, a mansion, a home with acreage, just a regular single family home, if you want a cookie cutter home, if you want a unique home, like any kind of home that you could ever imagine, you will find that in South Salem. And I think that's a really unique aspect of South Salem that oftentimes gets overlooked, but is a big reason why so many people live in South Salem. If you liked this video, definitely check out this video next. If you're ready to purchase a home in Salem, don't hesitate to reach out. Our email is in the description of this video.